You're on the internet right now, and you've been on it your whole life. You know Google, you know YouTube, you know social media, online banking, streaming services. You think you know the internet. But here's the thing, what you use every single day, Google, Instagram, Amazon, all of it represents less than 4% of the entire internet. Less than 4%. The rest is hidden. And deep inside that hidden world, far beyond what most people ever dare to imagine, there exists a layer of the internet that has terrified governments, empowered criminals, built billion-dollar illegal economies, and at the same time, protected journalists, saved lives, and given shelter to some of the bravest voices on the planet. It's called the dark web. And no, it's not what Hollywood told you it is. It's not a single shadowy website where masked hackers type furiously in glowing green code. And it's not a monster hiding in the basement of the internet, waiting for innocent users to stumble in. The reality is far more complex, far more human, and in many ways, far more interesting than anything movies have ever shown you. In this video, we're going to go deeper than almost any documentary has ever gone before. We're going to explain exactly how the dark web works. Not myths, not rumors, not Hollywood cliches, but real facts, real history, and real consequences. We'll trace its origins from a classified military project to a global criminal underground. We'll explain exactly why cybersecurity experts monitor it 24 hours a day, and we'll walk you through what's actually on it, the legitimate, the terrifying, and the outright bizarre. And by the end of this journey, you'll understand the hidden internet better than 99% of people on Earth. So let's begin. Let's go back to the very beginning. Chapter 2. The internet you don't know, surface web, deep web, and dark web, explained once and for all. Before we go anywhere near the dark web, we need to clear something up, because this is where most YouTube videos, and honestly, most adults completely get it wrong. There are 3 distinct layers to the internet, and confusing them will lead you to misunderstand everything that follows. So let's slow it down for a moment and get this exactly right. Layer 1, the surface web. The surface web is the internet you use every single day. It's every website you can find through a search engine. Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo. You type in a search, you click a link, and you're on the surface web. News articles, Wikipedia, YouTube videos, online stores, social media profiles. This YouTube video right now, this is the surface web. It's indexed, it's public, it's accessible to anyone with an internet connection and a browser. Search engines have crawled it, cataloged it, and placed it on the map. The surface web contains an estimated 5 to 6 billion indexed pages. That sounds enormous, but it represents roughly 4% of total internet content. 4%. Let that sink in for a moment. Layer 2, the deep web. Now here's where most people make their first big mistake. They hear deep web and immediately think dark web, but they are not the same thing, not even close. The deep web is simply any part of the internet that is not indexed by search engines. That's it. That's the entire definition. There is nothing mysterious about it. Your Gmail inbox, that's deep web. Google cannot search your emails. They are private to you. Your Netflix account page, deep web. Your online banking portal, deep web. Your company's internal database, deep web. Hospital patient records, deep web. Think about it like this. If someone asked what's inside your email inbox, you'd say it's none of their business. It's private, not illegal, not criminal, just not meant for public access. The deep web makes up approximately 96% of all internet content. It is where virtually all legitimate, private, and sensitive information lives. Government databases, corporate intranets, academic archives, private cloud storage, medical records. You visit the deep web every single day, every time you log into any account anywhere. The deep web is not scary. It is simply the part of the internet you cannot see from the surface. Layer 3, the dark web. And then there's the dark web. The dark web is a small subchapter of the deep web, but it is fundamentally different in one critical way. It's not just private, it is intentionally hidden. To access the dark web, you cannot use a regular browser. You cannot Google your way into it. You need specialized software that anonymizes your connection. And the websites on the dark web use completely different addresses, ending in .onion instead of .com or .org. These .onion sites do not have traditional IP addresses that can be easily traced. They are designed from the ground up to hide both sides of the connection, the server hosting the site and the user visiting it. That anonymity is the dark web's defining feature. And as we will see throughout this documentary, that anonymity is both its greatest strength and its greatest danger. The dark web is estimated to contain somewhere between 55,000 and 100,000 unique .onion addresses active at any given time. That is tiny compared to the billions of websites on the surface web, but what happens inside those hidden addresses? That is where the story be complicated. Chapter 3. How it all began. From a military lab to a global underground. To understand the dark web, you have to understand why it was created. And the answer might surprise you. It was not invented by criminals. It was not invented by hackers. It was not invented by underground movements or conspiracy groups. It was invented by the United States military. In the mid-1990s, researchers at the United States Naval Research Laboratory faced a very specific problem. Intelligence officers needed to communicate and access information online, but they could not do it through normal internet connections. Those connections could be traced, monitored, and intercepted by foreign adversaries. They needed a way to communicate anonymously, completely, untraceably. Even if an enemy intercepted the data traveling through the network, they should not be able to determine where it came from or where it was going. The solution they developed was called onion routing. The idea was simple, but brilliant. Instead of sending data directly from point A to point B, where anyone watching the network could see the full path, onion routing sends data through multiple intermediate nodes. At each step, the data is wrapped in a new layer of encryption, like layers of an onion. Each relay in the chain can only see one step behind and one step ahead. No single point in the system ever sees the full picture. The research was developed by Paul Syverson, Michael Reed, and David Goldschlag at the Naval Research Laboratory. Their work was published in 1996 and 1998, but then came a twist they did not fully anticipate: the privacy paradox. They realized something important. This anonymous network only works if many different types of people use it, because if only military or intelligence personnel used it, anyone analyzing traffic would immediately know. If someone is using this system, they must be a spy. So the anonymity depends on scale, on diversity, on normal users blending in. To hide one sensitive communication, you need millions of ordinary communications surrounding it. Anonymity requires a crowd. And so they made a decision that would change the internet forever. They released the technology to the public. The birth of Tor, 2002. In 2002, this technology evolved into Tor, the onion router. It was supported in part by the United States government and later released as open source software. By 2006, the Tor project became a nonprofit organization with a clear mission: to protect privacy and defend freedom from censorship online. And in the early years, that is exactly what it was used for. Journalists in authoritarian countries used it to communicate safely. Activists used it to organize without surveillance. Whistleblowers used it to expose corruption. Ordinary people used it simply to bypass censorship and access information freely. Today, the Tor network carries traffic from roughly 2 million users every day, and most of them are not criminals. Most are ordinary people who care about privacy or people living in places where online freedom is not guaranteed. But then, everything changed. The Silk Road changes everything. In January 2011, a website appeared on the dark web called the Silk Road. It was created by a man named Ross Ulbricht, who used the alias Dread Pirate Roberts. And it was essentially this: an Amazon marketplace for illegal drugs. The Silk Road used Tor for anonymity and Bitcoin for untraceable payments. Sellers listed products, buyers purchased them. Transactions were handled through escrow. There were reviews, ratings, and dispute systems. In structure, it looked like a normal e-commerce platform, but everything it sold was illegal. At its peak, the Silk Road generated over $1 billion in sales. It had thousands of sellers and hundreds of thousands of users worldwide. And it was not just a marketplace. It was also a philosophy. Ross Ulbricht believed he was building a free market outside government control, a digital utopia where individuals could choose without interference. He was wrong about many things, and we will come back to him later. The post-Snowden era. Then came 2013, and Edward Snowden. Snowden, a former NSA contractor, leaked thousands of classified documents that revealed the staggering scale of global surveillance programs run by the United States and its allies. The NSA was collecting phone records of millions of Americans. GCHQ in the United Kingdom had tapped undersea fiber optic cables, and intelligence agencies were quietly accessing data from major technology companies. Almost overnight, the question of online privacy stopped being a niche concern for tech enthusiasts and became a global debate. After Snowden's revelations, Tor downloads surged by over 100% within weeks. Millions of ordinary people suddenly wanted to understand what anonymity actually meant. The post-Snowden internet was fundamentally changed, and the dark web, which had already been growing in both legitimate use and criminal use, became a topic of worldwide attention. The modern era, ransomware, criminal enterprises, and cyberstates. From 2014 onward, the dark web evolved at extraordinary speed. Law enforcement shut down the Silk Road in 2013, but within months, dozens of replacements appeared. Alphabay, Hansa, Dream Market, each one more advanced than the last, each one rising, expanding, and eventually being taken down, and then replaced again. Meanwhile, a new form of cybercrime emerged that would become one of the most profitable criminal industries in modern history: ransomware. Criminal groups, some operating like full corporate organizations with customer support, developers, and even internal structure, began targeting hospitals, businesses, government agencies, and critical infrastructure. They would encrypt entire systems and then demand cryptocurrency payments in exchange for decryption keys. And many of those payments were coordinated through dark web infrastructure. As artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and global connectivity advanced, the dark web economy evolved alongside them. Today, the dark web is not a single place. It is not one website. It is not one community. It is a constantly shifting ecosystem, part criminal underground, part privacy refuge, and part intelligence battleground. And to understand how it works, you first have to understand the technology behind it. Chapter 4, the technology, onion routing, Tor, and the architecture of anonymity. Let's talk about how this actually works. Because once you understand the technology, everything else starts to make sense. Imagine you want to send a letter to someone. On the normal internet, it's like sending a postcard. Anyone handling it can see where it came from, where it's going, and sometimes even what it says. Now imagine you want to send that same letter completely anonymously. The onion analogy. You place your message inside a box. Then you place that box inside another box, then another box on top of that. 3 layers in total, each locked separately, and each lock is held by a different person in a different place. You hand the outer box to the first messenger. They can only open the outer layer. Inside, they find instructions for where to send the next box, but nothing more. They forward it. No knowledge of the origin, no knowledge of the final destination. The second messenger does the same, 1 layer removed, still blind to the full picture. The third messenger opens the final layer and delivers the message. At no point does any single person know both the sender and the receiver, and anyone watching the process cannot trace the full path. This is exactly how Tor works. The boxes are encryption layers, the messengers are called relays, and the final step is called the exit node. The 3 types of relays. When you connect to Tor, your traffic is automatically routed through 3 volunteer-run servers called relays. Each one has a different role. Entry node, also called the guard node. This is the first stop. It sees your real IP address. It knows you are connecting, but it does not know where you are going or what you are doing. It only knows the next relay in the chain. Middle relay. This is the blind transfer point. It knows nothing about you, nothing about your destination. It only passes encrypted data forward. Exit node. This is the final step. It sees the destination website, but it has no idea who originally sent the request. And to the outside website, it looks like the traffic is coming from the exit node, not the real user. No single relay ever sees the full picture. That is the power of onion routing. It breaks the chain of traceability. Hidden services and .onion addresses. Now, browsing normal websites through Tor gives you anonymity as a user. But what about websites that want to stay hidden themselves? That's where .onion hidden services come in. A .onion site does not use a normal IP address. Instead, it uses a cryptographic address, a long string of random characters generated from encryption keys. For example, Juhanurmi HXL77 NKQ76BLY2HLMO5ANG DIBSOT4CID .onion. Both the user and the website connect through the Tor network. The connection never leaves Tor at any point. That means neither side can discover the real location of the other. This is fundamentally different from normal browsing. It creates a fully hidden, end-to-end, anonymous connection on both sides. And that is exactly why dark web servers are so difficult to trace or shut down. Why Tor is slow? You might be wondering, if Tor is so powerful, why doesn't everyone use it? Simple. It's slow. Your data bounces through 3 volunteer relays, sometimes across different countries, sometimes even different continents, and each step adds delay. So a simple web page that loads instantly on a normal browser might take 5 to 10 times longer on Tor. And streaming video, in most cases, almost impossible. That's the fundamental trade-off. Anonymity costs speed, and for most everyday internet users, that inconvenience is enough to keep them away. VPN versus Tor, the key difference. This is one of the most common questions. What's the difference between a VPN and Tor? A VPN, a virtual private network, hides your IP address and encrypts your traffic between you and a VPN server. But here's the key point. The VPN provider can still see everything. They know your real IP address, they know you're connected, and they can potentially see what sites you're visiting. In other words, you are trusting one company with your data. If that company is forced by law, or if it is dishonest, your privacy can be compromised. Tor works differently. No single entity has the full picture. Not the entry node, not the middle relay, not the exit node. Each part only sees a small fragment of the journey, never the complete path. The design assumes that any single relay could be compromised, and still, no one can fully identify you. That's the difference. VPN, one trusted company sees everything. Tor, no single point knows everything. Completely different security models. Is Tor perfect? Limitations and attacks. Now here's what most dark web explanations don't tell you. Tor is not magic, and it is not invincible. It has real limitations and real attack methods. If an attacker, for example, a powerful government, manages to observe both the entry point and the exit point of your connection, they can attempt traffic correlation. They compare timing patterns, data flow, and packet size, and try to match the 2 ends of the circuit. This is extremely difficult, but not impossible under the right conditions. There are also browser fingerprinting attacks, malware that bypasses Tor entirely, and one of the most common failures, human mistakes. For example, logging into a personal account while using Tor. That alone can destroy anonymity instantly. The technology is strong, very strong. But the weak point is almost never the system, it is the user. And as we move forward into real case studies, you'll see a pattern. It's rarely the technology that fails, it's almost always human error. Now that you understand how the dark web works technically, structurally, and mechanically, the real question becomes, what is actually on it? Chapter 5, Inside the Hidden Internet. The full spectrum, from legitimate to lethal. When most people imagine the dark web, they imagine pure darkness. Pure danger, a place where every click leads to something illegal and every corner hides a threat. But that picture is not accurate, not even close. The dark web is not one thing. It is many things at once, and to understand it properly, we need to explore what actually exists there, across the full spectrum, from the completely legitimate to the genuinely dangerous. The legitimate side, what most people never hear about. Let's start where most explanations end, the legitimate use cases. SecureDrop is one of the most important tools in modern journalism. It is an open-source system built on Tor, used by major news organizations around the world, including the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Guardian, and many others. It allows whistleblowers to send documents and communicate with journalists completely anonymously, without fear of surveillance or retaliation. Think about what that means. Some of the biggest investigative stories in modern history, exposing corruption, abuse of power, and corporate misconduct, may have started through systems like this. There is also a Tor version of Facebook. Yes, Facebook runs an official .onion site. It was created for users in countries where the platform is censored or where accessing it could put someone at risk. Places like China, Iran, and Russia. There are also forums dedicated to cybersecurity research, privacy advocacy, and free speech communities in restrictive environments. Even digital libraries exist, offering access to books that are censored or unavailable in certain regions. The CIA maintains an official .onion site for receiving anonymous tips. The BBC has a Tor version of its news platform, and even the United Nations has experimented with secure communication through Tor. The legitimate dark web is real, active, and in many cases, essential. It is not accurate to call it purely criminal. The gray zone, privacy, crypto, and anonymous communities. Below the clearly legitimate layer, there is a large gray zone. Cryptocurrency exchanges operating outside traditional financial systems. Anonymous forums discussing legal but sensitive topics, including drug harm reduction, political dissent, and privacy advocacy. Discussion boards that would be considered too controversial for mainstream platforms. Anonymous mental health communities. Privacy-focused email services and tools built specifically for anonymity. Much of this exists because mainstream platforms are heavily monitored, restricted, or censored. For many users, the dark web becomes a refuge, a place where speech and identity are less controlled. Is everything in this gray zone good? No. No. Is everything illegal? Also no. It is complicated, and the internet, as always, does not deal well with complicated things. The criminal underground. And now we get to the part you came here for. The criminal dark web is real, active, sophisticated, and genuinely dangerous. Not to random browsers, but to businesses, governments, and individuals whose data has already been compromised. Understanding it is essential for anyone who cares about cybersecurity. Dark web marketplaces. The most famous element of the criminal dark web is the marketplace, modeled ironically on legitimate e-commerce. Dark web marketplaces operate like Amazon. There is a front page. Categories, individual seller listings, shopping carts, ratings and reviews, dispute resolution systems, customer support, even seasonal discounts. What they sell varies widely. Illegal drugs remain the dominant category. But these markets also trade. Stolen credit card information, login credentials for streaming services, bank account access, corporate VPN credentials, fraudulent documents like passports, driver's licenses and social security numbers, fake invoices, counterfeit currency, hacking tools, exploit kits, software packages designed to attack known vulnerabilities in systems, and malware kits ready for deployment. The prices might surprise you. A stolen credit card with PIN can sell for as little as $10. A full identity package, name, address, social security number, and security answers can range from $30 to $150 depending on credit strength. Access to a compromised corporate network can range from hundreds to tens of thousands of dollars, depending on the size and industry of the target. Ransomware infrastructure, but individual stolen data is almost small scale compared to what ransomware groups operate. Ransomware gangs use the dark web as their operational backbone. They communicate there. They publish stolen data there. They negotiate with victims there, and increasingly they operate what is known as ransomware as a service, essentially a franchise model. A core group develops the malware and infrastructure. Then they recruit affiliates, external attackers who deploy the ransomware in exchange for a share of the profits. The affiliate breaks into networks. The core group handles encryption systems, payment processing, and decryption keys. Modern ransomware is not a lone hacker in a hoodie. It is organized crime operating with the structure and efficiency of a technology startup, data breach markets, and stealer logs. Every time you hear about a major data breach, a company hacked, millions of passwords exposed, that data almost always ends up on the dark web within days. Specialized forums and marketplaces exist purely for trading stolen data. Hundreds of millions of records at a time, including names, emails, passwords, dates of birth, addresses, and phone numbers. Cybercriminals buy this data in bulk to perform credential stuffing attacks, automatically testing leaked login combinations across hundreds of services until something works. They are not guessing passwords. They are using real data that was already stolen from real systems. Hacking communities and forums. Below the marketplaces are the forums. This is where knowledge is shared, exploits are traded, and new attackers learn how the ecosystem works. Some forums are highly technical, almost like underground research communities, where zero-day vulnerabilities, enterprise exploits, and advanced attack methods are discussed. Others are much lower level. Entry points for beginners who lack technical skills but want ready-made tools that automate attacks. The result is simple but dangerous. The dark web has lowered the barrier to entry for cybercrime. You no longer need to be an expert programmer to launch an attack. You need cryptocurrency, access to the right forum, and a supplier. And that shift changed everything. Chapter 6. Hollywood versus real life. Separating dangerous myths from what's actually true. Okay, let's take a breath because before we go any further, we need to deal with something important. The myths, the fiction, the completely false ideas people still believe about the dark web. This matters because misinformation doesn't just create fear, it also hides the real threats that actually exist. Myth 1, red rooms. Myth, live stream torture or murder broadcasts on the dark web that viewers pay to watch. This is the most persistent dark web myth in existence, and it is completely false. There has never been a single verified case of a real red room. Not one. Law enforcement agencies, cybersecurity researchers, intelligence organizations, none of them have ever confirmed its existence. The idea comes from internet horror stories, fiction, and urban legends. And technically speaking, it also doesn't make sense. Real-time streaming over Tor would be extremely unstable due to latency, and broadcasting violent crime publicly in real time would be one of the fastest ways to get caught. Red rooms are not real, they never were, and most videos claiming otherwise are either fiction or scams designed to attract attention. Myth 2. Hiring a hitman on the dark web. Myth, you can pay cryptocurrency and hire a professional assassin online through the dark web. This is also false. There are many so-called hitman services on the dark web, but every single one of them is a scam. They take payment and disappear. Some even escalate into extortion, threatening to report the buyer unless more money is sent. In several real cases, individuals who tried to engage with such services were later identified and arrested, because real-world violent crime does not operate like an online marketplace. There are no ratings, no customer support, no verified listings. Think about it for a moment, and the illusion falls apart immediately. Myth 3. You'll get hacked instantly just by visiting Myth. Simply loading a .onion website will immediately hack your computer. No, visiting a website, even on the dark web, does not automatically compromise your device. You cannot get malware simply by browsing any more than you can on the regular internet. The real risks come from downloading files, executing unknown software, clicking malicious links, entering personal credentials into fake forms, or using outdated and vulnerable systems. Passive browsing, while not recommended, is not an instant security failure. That said, casual exploration of the dark web is still a bad idea, not because you'll be instantly hacked, but because the content itself can be disturbing and in some cases legally risky just to view. Myth 4, Tor is illegal. Myth, using Tor or accessing the dark web is illegal. In the vast majority of countries, this is completely false. Using Tor is legal. Browsing the dark web is legal. The technology itself is neutral. The Tor browser can be downloaded directly from the official Tor project website. What matters is what you do with it. Just like the regular internet, illegal activity is illegal, not the tool. Accessing illegal marketplaces, buying or selling illegal goods, downloading illegal content, or participating in cybercrime, all illegal. But using Tor for privacy, accessing .onion versions of legitimate websites, reading censored news, or communicating anonymously, all legal in most countries. There are exceptions. Some authoritarian regimes, including countries like Russia, China, and Belarus, have taken steps to restrict or block Tor access. But in most democratic countries, the use of the technology itself is not a crime. Myth 5. The dark web is enormous. Myth, the dark web is a massive, sprawling digital universe larger than the regular internet. This is also incorrect. The dark web is actually small. Estimates suggest around 55,000 to 100,000 active .onion sites at any given time. Now compare that to over 1.7 billion websites on the regular internet. The difference is enormous. The dark web's influence is not based on size, but on impact. What makes it significant is what happens inside it, not how big it is. And here's the important thing about myths. They are not harmless. When people believe red rooms are real, they ignore the real threats. When people think Tor is illegal, they avoid tools that could actually protect their privacy. And when people assume they will be instantly hacked, they never learn how real cyber attacks actually work. Reality is always more complex and more interesting than the myth. Now let's move into something even more fascinating. The fact that the criminal dark web doesn't just exist. It operates like a real economy. Chapter 7. The dark web economy. How a billion-dollar criminal marketplace actually works. Here's something that genuinely shocked cybersecurity researchers when they first started systematically studying the dark web economy. It works. Not perfectly, not legally, but remarkably, disturbingly well. The criminal dark web has developed functional economic mechanisms that solve the exact same problems legitimate markets solve: trust, reputation, payment security, dispute resolution, and product quality assurance. It did this organically, without regulation, in a completely anonymous environment. And the result is a hidden economy worth billions of dollars every year. Let's walk through how it actually functions. Cryptocurrency. The fuel of the underground, cryptocurrency made the dark web economy possible. You cannot mail cash anonymously at scale, and you cannot accept credit cards anonymously at all. But cryptocurrency changed everything. It solved the payment problem for anonymous transactions. It is peer-to-peer. It does not require a financial institution. It crosses borders instantly. And at least in its early perception, it seemed completely untraceable. The keyword there is seemed. Because here's what most people don't realize about Bitcoin. It is not truly anonymous. Bitcoin transactions are pseudonymous, not anonymous. Every transaction is recorded permanently on a public blockchain. And with sophisticated analysis, investigators can trace Bitcoin flows and link wallet addresses to real identities. The FBI, IRS, and international law enforcement agencies have become extremely advanced at blockchain analysis. Companies like Chainalysis have built entire industries around tracing cryptocurrency movements, and this became one of the major weaknesses of early dark web economies. Monero, the privacy coin. The criminal ecosystem adapted. It shifted heavily toward Monero. Unlike Bitcoin, Monero uses advanced cryptographic methods, ring signatures, stealth addresses, and ring confidential transactions to hide who sent funds, who received them, and even the transaction amounts. Monero does not produce a publicly traceable blockchain in the same way Bitcoin does. This makes it significantly more resistant to forensic analysis. And today, Monero is widely used for high-value criminal transactions on the dark web. In fact, the United States government has offered incentives to firms capable of breaking Monero's privacy systems, so far with limited success. Escrow systems and trust. But cryptocurrency alone does not solve the core problem of a criminal marketplace. How do you ensure a seller actually delivers what they promised when both sides are anonymous and there is no legal system to enforce trust? The answer is escrow, and it is surprisingly elegant. When a buyer purchases something on a dark web marketplace, the payment does not go directly to the seller. It goes into an escrow wallet controlled by the marketplace. The seller ships the product, the buyer confirms delivery, and only then are the funds released. If there is a dispute, the marketplace acts as an arbitrator. This is the same basic system used by platforms like eBay and Amazon. The criminal dark web essentially reinvented legitimate e-commerce dispute resolution for illegal trade. Reputation systems. Without reputation, every transaction becomes a gamble. So dark web marketplaces built review systems, 5-star ratings, seller profiles, response times, dispute histories. Over time, sellers on established marketplaces build reputations that become their most valuable asset. That reputation separates trusted sellers from exit scammers. And established sellers often charge higher prices simply because their reputation reduces risk. It is, and this cannot be overstated, extremely similar to a highly rated seller on Etsy, except the goods are illegal. Exit scams. There is a dark irony at the heart of the dark web economy. Its trust systems are built on a foundation of distrust. Exit scams are one of the most predictable events in the criminal dark web. A marketplace grows, builds trust, accumulates large amounts of money in escrow wallets, and then, without warning, disappears, taking all the funds with it. This has happened repeatedly. It happened with Evolution Market in 2015, which disappeared with an estimated $12 million in Bitcoin. It has happened to dozens of marketplaces before and since, and it will likely happen again. Because in a system built on anonymity and illegal activity, there is always one final truth. There are no guarantees. Ransomware business models. And then there is the most advanced criminal business model the dark web has produced. Modern ransomware gangs do not simply encrypt data. They operate full-scale business ecosystems. Ransomware as a service organizations function almost like legitimate tech companies. They have developers who build the malware, affiliates who deploy it, negotiators who communicate with victims, cryptocurrency specialists who handle payments. and even infrastructure teams managing dark web leak sites. Some even run public-facing news pages where they announce victims and leak stolen data to pressure payment. And yes, they have customer service. Ransomware groups communicate with victims through structured chat systems. They offer test decryptions. They negotiate payment terms. And they sometimes even provide advice on improving cybersecurity after payment, for a fee, of course. Global ransomware damages in 2024 were estimated to exceed $1 billion in payments alone. And that does not include downtime, recovery costs, or business disruption, which multiplies the total far beyond that figure. This is not amateur hacking. This is organized criminal enterprise operating at the scale of a global industry. And that brings us to the stories. The real cases, the moments where all of this theory became real history. Chapter 8, When the Hidden World Collides with Reality. 5 stories that changed cybersecurity forever. Case 1, The Rise and Fall of Silk Road. Ross Ulbricht was 26 years old when he built Silk Road, a physics graduate with libertarian ideals and genuine technical skill. He believed he was building something philosophically important, a free market beyond government control. By 2013, Silk Road had facilitated approximately $1.2 billion in transactions across over 1 million accounts. FBI agents, working for years to penetrate its anonymity, finally caught Ulbricht through an operational security mistake. A forum post he made years earlier contained a personal email address. That single thread unraveled everything. In October 2013, FBI agents arrested Ulbricht in a San Francisco public library, intentionally because they needed him logged into Silk Road's admin interface before he could encrypt or destroy it. They walked up behind him. One agent distracted him. Another grabbed his open laptop. Ross Ulbricht was convicted of drug trafficking, continuing criminal enterprise, money laundering, and computer hacking. He was sentenced to 2 life terms without the possibility of parole. The lesson? The technology didn't fail. The human did. One old forum post with a real email address ended everything. Case 2, WannaCry, ransomware at global scale. In May 2017, a ransomware attack called WannaCry detonated across the internet like a digital bomb. Within hours, it infected over 230,000 computers across 150 countries. It hit the United Kingdom's National Health Service so hard that hospitals began diverting ambulances and canceling operations. It hit Telefonica in Spain, Deutsche Bahn in Germany, FedEx in the United States, Russian banks, Chinese universities. WannaCry used an exploit called Eternal Blue, developed by the NSA as a cyber weapon and later stolen by a hacking group called the Shadow Brokers, who leaked it online. Criminal actors weaponized a classified intelligence agency tool and detonated it globally. A young British security researcher named Marcus Hutchins accidentally stopped the outbreak by registering a domain name that functioned as a kill switch for $10.69. The kill switch had been built into the malware by its creators, possibly as their own emergency stop. WannaCry was attributed by multiple governments to North Korean state hackers. It demonstrated that state cyber weapons, once leaked, can be turned against the entire world. Case 3, Colonial Pipeline, when ransomware hit infrastructure, 2021. In May 2021, a ransomware group called DarkSide compromised Colonial Pipeline, which supplies approximately 45% of fuel to the United States East Coast. The company shut down its pipeline systems out of caution. Within days, fuel shortages cascaded across southeastern states. Gas stations ran dry. People panicked, bought fuel in plastic bags. The United States government declared a regional emergency. Colonial Pipeline paid approximately $4.4 million in Bitcoin to the DarkSide ransomware group to receive a decryption key. The decryption tool worked so slowly that the company continued using its own backups anyway. The FBI, however, was tracking the cryptocurrency payment. They traced and seized approximately $2.3 million of the ransom, demonstrating that even so-called anonymous cryptocurrency transactions can sometimes be recovered. DarkSide, facing enormous law enforcement pressure, shut down operations shortly after, but many of its members simply regrouped under new names. Colonial Pipeline was one of the most impactful demonstrations that ransomware attacks on critical infrastructure can directly threaten ordinary civilian life. Case 4. Alphabay and Operation Bayonet, 2017. Alphabay had replaced Silk Road as the dark web's largest marketplace. At its peak, it was estimated to be 10 times larger than Silk Road, with over 250,000 listings for illegal products. In July 2017, an international operation involving the FBI, DEA, and Europol simultaneously took down Alphabay and Hansa Market, the two largest dark web markets in operation. But the operation was remarkable for its sophistication. Rather than shutting down Hansa Market immediately when they seized control of it, law enforcement secretly ran Hansa Market for over a month. They collected the addresses of thousands of users who switched to Hansa after Alphabay's shutdown, thinking they were moving to safety. Alexander Kaz, Alphabay's creator, was arrested in Thailand. He had made numerous operational security mistakes, including registering Alphabay's first email address with his personal Hotmail account. Operation Bayonet was one of law enforcement's most sophisticated dark web operations. The lesson it sent, even when one market falls, switching to another might walk you straight into a law enforcement honeypot. Case 5, the National Security Agency leak and shadow brokers. In 2016 and 2017, a mysterious group calling themselves the Shadow Brokers began releasing hacking tools allegedly stolen from the NSA's elite hacking unit, the Equation Group. The tools included zero-day exploits for Windows, vulnerabilities unknown to Microsoft that could allow total system compromise. The Shadow Brokers published these tools first on dark web forums, then on public platforms. The Eternal Blue exploit used by WannaCry came from this leak. NotPetya, another devastating cyber attack that caused over $10 billion in global damage, also used NSA tools from this leak. The Shadow Brokers were never definitively identified. The incident exposed something profound. When intelligence agencies develop offensive cyber weapons and store them digitally, those weapons can be stolen and turned against the world. The NSA's most powerful tools became the property of criminals and nation-states. The dark web was the launch pad. The world paid the consequences. Chapter 9, The Defenders, How Cybersecurity Professionals Monitor the Hidden Internet. Now let's flip the entire perspective. Everything we've talked about exists in the dark, but there is a parallel world, one of analysts, threat hunters, investigators, and intelligence specialists whose entire job is to monitor that darkness. And here's the thing, cybersecurity is not about hackers in hoodies attacking systems. It's about people sitting in well-lit offices, monitoring data flows, analyzing threat intelligence, and building defenses that protect millions of people. Dark web intelligence and threat monitoring companies and government agencies employ specialists who systematically monitor dark web forums, marketplaces, and communication channels. Their goal is early warning. If someone on a dark web forum announces they've breached a specific company's database, a threat intelligence team needs to know about it before that breach becomes a larger crisis. If a new malware strain is being sold on a marketplace, security teams need to understand its capabilities before it is deployed against their clients. Threat intelligence firms, companies like Recorded Future, Dark Owl, Flashpoint, and dozens of others, have built entire product lines around systematically harvesting, analyzing, and contextualizing dark web content for corporate security teams. Credential monitoring and breach detection. One of the most direct ways the dark web affects ordinary people, when credentials leak. When a company suffers a data breach, the stolen data, emails, passwords, personal information, typically appears on dark web markets and forums within days or weeks. Organizations and services like Have I Been Pwned, run by security researcher Troy Hunt, monitor for these leaks and alert users when their credentials appear. Password managers increasingly include dark web monitoring features that alert you when your email or passwords appear in known data dumps. This is no longer a niche security feature. It is becoming table stakes for digital personal security. OSINT, Open Source Intelligence. OSINT, Open Source Intelligence, is the discipline of gathering intelligence from publicly available sources. On the dark web, this means using accessible forums, index.onion sites, and publicly visible criminal infrastructure to build understanding of threat actors. Security researchers use OSINT techniques to map criminal networks, identifying which forum users are the same person across different platforms, tracking cryptocurrency wallet activity, monitoring changes in malware tools, and building intelligence pictures of how criminal groups operate. Honeypots and law enforcement operations. Remember Operation Bayonet, where law enforcement secretly operated a dark web marketplace for a month? That is an extreme version of a honeypot operation, our decoy systems designed to attract attackers. In the dark web context, law enforcement and security researchers sometimes operate fake forums, fake marketplaces, or fake criminal infrastructure, logging who interacts with them and gathering intelligence on criminal actors. These operations are enormously resource-intensive and legally complex, but they have produced some of the most valuable intelligence about dark web criminal communities. The career opportunities cybersecurity job openings globally have consistently exceeded supply for years. The demand for dark web analysts, threat intelligence specialists, SOC analysts, digital forensics experts, and incident response professionals is extraordinary and growing. If you are watching this documentary and feeling a combination of fascination and concern, that is exactly the mindset that makes a great cybersecurity professional. Cybersecurity needs people who find this world fascinating, who want to understand how the dark operates so they can defend against it. The field is not just technical. It requires psychology, geography, finance, communication, and strategic thinking. The defenders are hiring, and they need more of you. Chapter 10, your personal cybersecurity guide. Practical, real steps to protect yourself in a world where this exists. Everything we've discussed in this documentary, the criminal marketplaces, the data leaks, the credential theft, the ransomware, all of it has real implications for you personally. Your email address has probably already appeared in a data breach. Your old passwords may already be on a dark web market. Your personal data almost certainly exists in some form in the hidden economy. But here's the thing, this does not have to be devastating, because with the right habits, you can dramatically reduce your risk. Let's walk through exactly what to do. Step 1, check if you've been breached. Go to haveibeenpwned.com right now. It's free, it's trustworthy. It's run by respected security researcher Troy Hunt. Enter your email address and see which data breaches it has appeared in. If your email appears in a breach, don't panic. Do act. Step 2, use a password manager. This is the single most impactful thing an ordinary person can do for their digital security. Most people reuse passwords across multiple accounts. Criminals know this. When one breach exposes your email and password, they immediately try that same combination on banking sites, email providers, Amazon, and dozens of other services. This is called credential stuffing, and it is automated and relentless. A password manager, Bitwarden, 1Password, or Dashlane are all excellent options. Generates unique, strong, random passwords for every account. You only remember one master password. The manager remembers everything else. Unique passwords for every account. This single habit closes one of the most exploited vulnerabilities in cybersecurity. Step 3, enable two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication means that even if someone has your password, they cannot log into your account without a second verification, usually a code sent to your phone or generated by an authenticator app. Enable two-factor authentication on every account that offers it. Prioritize email accounts, banking, cloud storage, and social media. Authenticator apps like Google Authenticator, Authy, or your password manager's built-in authentication are more secure than SMS codes. Use them whenever possible. Step 4, recognize phishing. Most cyber attacks do not begin with advanced hacking. They begin with a phishing email, a message designed to trick you into clicking a link or giving away credentials. Red flags. Unexpected urgency like your account will be suspended, suspicious sender addresses that look almost correct, like support@amazon.com, requests to log in through email links, or password reset emails you did not request. Rule: never click login links in emails. Go directly to the website in your browser instead. Step 5, keep software updated. Remember WannaCry? It exploited a vulnerability that Microsoft had already patched. Every machine it infected was running outdated software. Software updates are not annoying interruptions. They are security patches closing vulnerabilities that attackers are actively trying to exploit. Update your operating system, browser, and applications promptly. Enable automatic updates where possible. Step 6, be careful what you share. Your personal information, name, birth date, home address, employer, phone number, is used in social engineering attacks. The more you share publicly, the more sophisticated attacks against you can become. Audit your social media privacy settings. Think carefully before sharing personal milestones publicly. And remember, data once online is extremely difficult to fully remove. Step 7, use HTTPS and be careful on public Wi-Fi. Ensure websites where you enter sensitive information use HTTPS, the padlock icon. Avoid entering sensitive information on public Wi-Fi networks without a VPN. Public networks can be monitored or even spoofed by attackers. None of these steps require technical expertise. They require habits. Security is rarely about technology. It is about discipline. And the habits listed above will protect you from the vast majority of threats that emerge from the dark web economy. Chapter 11, the final thought. What the dark web tells us about ourselves. We've covered a lot of ground. We've gone from the Naval Research Lab in 1995 to billion-dollar ransomware operations. From Ross Ulbricht's idealistic free market experiment to operational honeypots run by the FBI. From the cryptographic elegance of onion routing to the unsettling professionalism of dark web customer service teams. And I want to leave you with something that I think is important. The dark web is not evil. I know that sounds strange after everything we've discussed, but it's true. A hammer is not evil. A chemical compound is not evil. The internet itself is not evil. These are tools, and tools take the shape of the hands that hold them. The dark web was created by the United States military to protect intelligence communications. It became a lifeline for journalists in authoritarian countries. It became a platform for whistleblowers who exposed genuine wrongdoing. It became a refuge for people in places where the open internet is controlled or restricted. And yes, it also became an ecosystem for criminal enterprise, a marketplace for stolen data, a communications network for ransomware gangs, a space where genuinely harmful activity exists. All of this is true at the same time, because the dark web is not a place, it is a mirror. It reflects human nature in concentrated form, our hunger for privacy, our desire for freedom, our capacity for cruelty, our ingenuity in the face of restriction, our ability to build trust in an environment designed for anonymity, and our willingness to exploit that same trust for profit. Every data breach you heard about in this documentary was caused by a human being. Every ransomware attack, every stolen credential, every criminal marketplace, humans built them. Humans run them. Humans are both the criminals and the victims, and humans are also the defending against it all. The cybersecurity professionals who monitor dark web forums at 3 a.m. watching for early warning signs of attacks, the threat intelligence analysts building profiles of ransomware groups so their clients do not become the next victim, the researchers who spend years mapping underground economies to understand how to disrupt them, the law enforcement officers who once ran a criminal dark web marketplace for a month to catch its users. These are people too. Before we close, there is one more thing you need to understand. The dark web of the next decade will not look exactly like the one we've described today, because artificial intelligence is changing everything. Artificial intelligence is already being used to generate more convincing phishing emails, personalized, grammatically perfect, contextually aware. It is being used to create deepfake audio and video for fraud and disinformation. It is lowering the barrier to entry for creating malware and exploit code. And it is enabling criminal organizations to scale operations that once required large human teams. At the same time, artificial intelligence is being deployed defensively. AI-powered threat detection, automated vulnerability scanning, machine learning systems that identify abnormal behavior in networks before humans even notice. The same technology, two directions. The race continues. Understanding the dark web in this moment, in the era we are living through, is not optional. It is not a niche topic for tech enthusiasts. It is basic literacy for a world where your financial data, your medical history, your private communications, and your identity all live in digital systems that criminals are actively, professionally, relentlessly trying to compromise. Knowledge is the only real defense, not fear, not ignorance, not the comfort of pretending it is someone else's problem. Knowledge. And now you have more of it than you did 50 minutes ago. Use it. If this video helped you, even a little, like it, share it with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe for more content like this. If you made it this far, thank you for your time. I genuinely appreciate it. Stay curious, stay secure, and I'll see you in the next one.